Welcome to today's webinar, courtesy of the Kentucky Small Business Development Center in Louisville. Discover no-cost, valuable business services to help you thrive, whether starting your entrepreneurial journey or scaling your existing business. We have the resources and expertise to help you succeed. For more information, please visit our website or text 502-977-5800. Thank you for joining us today. Feel free to use the chat feature to ask questions or engage with our speaker. Let's get started.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the evening edition of our Toolkit Tuesday. Thanks for joining me. I am Dave Etkin. I'm the director here at the Louisville Small Business Development Center, one of 13 centers across the state of Kentucky. So happy to have you here today. And just as always, since I'm flying solo tonight, I need all the help I can. If you look at the bottom of your screen, you should see a toolbar. And if you don't, just take your cursor and hover over it. It should pop up. And there you'll see the chat button. If you wouldn't mind just clicking on that and tell us your name, where you're joining from, that you can hear me and see me okay. And it's really important that we know you're out there. I can kind of see you coming in, but don't know if everything's working because we have spent some time talking and no one was hearing us. So it was great. Hey, Michelle. Northern Kentucky. Very nice. We were just there the other day. Clarissa in Houston, Texas. Wow. Unbelievable. I'm glad you made it. I don't know how you find us, but I'm certainly glad you did. Hey, David, how are you? Good to see you. Kara from Louisville, Jocelyn, Louisville. Hey, Joan Hale, how are you? We need to connect. I keep saying that. Hi, Katie. Got you on my radar. We'll get together. Hey, Richard. Hi, Emmanuel. All right. Okay. Thanks for doing that. Really appreciate you guys popping in. Oh, there's Bardstown. Hi, Melissa Covington. Yeah. Hawaii from Louisville. Saw you last week. Glad you came back. Awesome. So great. You know, we got a great topic tonight, and it kind of dovetails with a little experience I had earlier as I was talking to a client who's has a plumbing business and needed some help with marketing. He said, you know, sales are down, I need to pump up. And I said, what are you doing from a marketing standpoint? He goes, well, I'm thinking about doing some billboards and put some flyers out and stuff. And I said, okay, so if you need a plumber, how would you find the plumber? And he said, oh, well, I go to Google and I Google it. I said, well, why would you spend money on a billboard when you didn't do what you should have been doing in the first place? So we invited our good friend, tech expert, and all things SEO. JC Phelps is here with the program here, and you know him, you love him. He's a national treasure. We're glad he was here with us again. And so, JC, you are going to tell us a little bit about how to take your website, use that as the bottom of the funnel, and how to drive traffic to that website where you can make that sale. So,
all right. Hi, everyone. So excited to be here. Before I share the slides, I do want to just say I'm biased, but this is one of my favorite topics. It is something that I'm very passionate about. My business, I work as an independent publisher. And so SEO is what I do, and it is literally the root of my business. I can't exist without it. And so you'll see examples of that. But Dave, I love that you said the plumber. I taught SEO actually to my college students this week, and I was like, if you're a plumber, if you're an attorney, if you're, I don't care what business it is, we turn to Google and we turn to the search engine.
right.
And it is invariably important. So let me go ahead and share my slides.
All right.
And we will start the slideshow and let's get started. So Dave did mention this, so I won't go on about it too much, but I will say that the SBDC, of course, is a statewide program. If you're not familiar, you may attend trainings with us. There are two main services or primary services that the SBDC provides. This core service or the signature service is what we call business coaching. And that's when we work one-on-one with your business. And then we have training and education similar to what we're doing here tonight. Both of these are provided at no cost. Thankfully, through a co-sponsorship, we have a cooperative agreement with the SBA. We are administered by the University of Kentucky, and many other people make our program possible. I've been in classes with many of you, so it's great to see you again. I recognize the names. But if we have never been in contact, here's my email address, and I can drop that in the chat too. I'm always love to hear from you all. Let me put that to everyone. It's just my name, jc.phelps@uky.edu, but it's a pleasure to meet you. I serve the SBDC as the statewide training coordinator, so everything training and education, that's what I do, and it's my passion. But again, tonight I'm biased. I'm here for one of my favorite topics, and it is SEO. So SEO, you hear the word, it's a buzzword, people love to talk about it, and then we have to ask ourselves, what the heck is it, right? SEO, search engine optimization, you can see lots of definitions, and here's the JC way of thinking about it. SEO is an art. I really believe that. It's an art, it's a science, it's a formula, and it's how we optimize our website for the search engine, how we rank higher, right? And by search engine, I'm talking about Google primarily. There are, of course, other search engines. I was actually telling my students the other day about Ask Jeeves. Do you all ever remember that? The little butler. That was the original search engine for me, I think, that I used all the time. But you and I both use Google probably multiple times a day. Ask yourself, when you Google something, what are you going to click? And chances are you're going to click what's at the very top, right? That's the only way that we're going to access our customers and hopefully convert a sell. Because if you're on page 5, they're not going to go to page 5, right? We can't trust that they'll do that, and no rational consumer probably will. As I said, I work in independent publishing. I'm a food writer. I write a food blog, and that I've done for 15 years. And I've worked for a lot of food outlets, Southern Living, things like that. If you're in Louisville, and you may have seen me cook on Wave, I'm working food. And Michelle said at the top, organically scroll past the sponsored ones. I do too. That's what's called SEM, Michelle. So search engine marketing, meaning they're paying per click. But we want to be the organic ones at the top, meaning you just show. So this was my web traffic last Thursday. In fact, because I remember when I took the screenshot. And as you can see here, you can see the posts that were the best on the site that day. But what I want to point out is yeah, the traffic received roughly, I don't know, once you added all the small ones, a little over 60,000 views that day, which is great, right? That's one day of traffic. Look at what was number 1. I do want to say, social media is important, and I have roughly 100,000 followers on social media across my platforms. But look at what was number 1 by far. Search engines. The search engine brought 42,614 people to my website that day. That is significant. And that is how I make money. And it's how other businesses can make money, right? You may not be a publisher, but at the end of the day, we can't make a sell if someone's not on the website. We can't let people know about your business if they're not on the website. And so search engine optimization is my day-to-day. It's what I do. So let's talk about it. There are multiple types of SEO. We're going to focus on 2 and 3, and you don't need to know what type of SEO you're doing. But my point of this slide is that SEO is multifaceted. There's a technical side. Yes, your site speed, how friendly it is on mobile. Those things matter. On-page SEO, your headings, your meta tags, your image alt tags. We're going to talk about what all that means. You may be thinking, what the heck is that, right? Content SEO, we're really going to talk about that using keywords and integrating it into your site. And then there's off-page SEO, which is building external links. I do not cover that. That's kind of, a higher level things, but you can see like there are other sites, for example, runningtothekitchen.com sent 123 people to me last Thursday. Love it, right? Keep sending them. The Littlest Crumb. These are websites that have linked to my recipe. Love to see it. Okay. All of that to say, we will focus mostly on 2 and 3. But I will tell you, SEO is not easy. It's not hard to do once you understand it. It's actually quite easy to do then. But if you read about search engine optimization online, and I'm assuming that some of you have because you're here this evening, you're likely going to get confused. I consider myself an SEO expert. It's what I do as a career. And I'll read things online and I'll say, what are they even talking about? And that is a problem for me. It's a problem for me when I think of access in terms of their clients. And so here's what I've done. And by the way, I forgot to say this. I will send these slides to Dave and Janet can send out to you. So you'll have a copy of them. Don't feel like you have to write everything down. You can just listen and take it in. Don't stress. I'm happy for you to have the material. But I think of SEO as a formula, okay? And formulas have inputs, right? Keywords, it's the first one for a reason, it's the biggie. And then it funnels down to the title, to meta descriptions, to headings, to the slug, to the text, to the images. That's the big kahuna that a lot of people are surprised about. And we're going to cover all of this tonight. This is my formula. Keyword selection, there's a bunch of words here, but let me tell you what it is. If you go to Google to find something, right, and you're that plumber, you're probably going to type in plumber, Louisville, Kentucky. That is a keyword without question. I want you to think of keywords as what did you type in to get there? For example, going back to this page, my website, I would like to think I'm a pretty good cook, right? I do it for a living. There are things that I cook that are far more glamorous than my number one post that day. Perfectly cooked canned collard greens. Why did I write that? I know people search for it, which means that I make money off of it, right? And so that's my search term. People are looking how to cook the canned collard greens or how to season them. Someone's going to look at attorney, Lexington, Kentucky, sign company, Louisville, Kentucky, whatever it is. That's your keyword. And keywords don't need to be too long, right? They're typically 2 to 5 words. And if they're shorter, they tend to be long tail. If they're long, short tail, long ones are called long tail. And as in the comment when Michelle sent that about organically, agree, right? If you're paying for these keywords to show up at the top and you'll see something that says sponsored, you're paying for that, and it is actually quite expensive. What we're talking about tonight is SEO, which is organic. Okay. The pay-per-click, she says, it is shocking how much that bill can rack up. 1 to 3%, I don't want you to stress on this. That's the thing you're going to see with general guidance. But here's what I want you to take from that. There is a recommended density, more or less, meaning that your keyword should not be every other word. And we're going to talk about that. But that's called keyword stuffing. You don't just want to say it over and over again because the reader or the customer, in maybe your case, that's going to be a poor experience for them. Okay. So there is a correct amount of how many times you should say a keyword, and I'll give you my tip on that. So you might use a keyword planner, like something through Google Ads. There are many softwares you can research keywords. You may want to do that. I do that, right? I don't use Google AdWords, but I do that because I'm a writer, right? I'm a publisher. I write content for a living. Once you come to the site, you watch ads, and then I make so many dollars per 1,000 views. Okay. So when I get 60,000 views that day, my rate, if it's 20 bucks, 30 bucks, that's how much I made that day. Okay. Most small businesses are probably not going to be doing keyword research. Let's just be honest. And I'm of the belief that I'm of the belief that you know what people are going to be searching for you. But I do have a couple examples of a little keyword research, does make a difference. And I could teach a whole class on that, right? So I can't talk the whole class about it. But this is a small business example. Maybe you are an attorney and you're an estate planner. I did put some geographic parameters in here that are not currently being seen. But as you can see here from the keyword research I did on Google, estate planning, 10 to 100,000 monthly searches, it's medium competition. Okay. But I can see right here that the word revocable trust has the same average monthly searches and has low competition. And so if I'm an attorney, I might be talking about on my page that something about revocable trust. Or I may use the term probate lawyer because it has the same search term and it's low competition. Okay. So you can use software like this to actually dial in and look what your keyword should be. But again, you're probably going to have a pretty good idea. But there is an amount of research that can go into doing this the best. This is one for me, right? Like if I was writing a recipe on spinach dip, again, my business is kind of unique, right? Spinach dip, 10 to 100,000 searches, low. Well, that's great. But look right here. Spinach, if you would have expanded it all, this says spinach artichoke dip. It has 10 times the monthly searches, 100K to a million. Year over year, it's 900% more popular at the time I took this screenshot, and it has low competition. What does that mean? By George, my keyword is spinach artichoke dip, right? That is really, really important. And so if you're a publisher like me, you're going to be researching what every single word is. As a small business, again, it's probably not going to be what you do. You're going to be looking at what you do Louisville, Kentucky, what you do Northern Kentucky or Covington or, whatever it may be. So you have a keyword, okay? Maybe your keyword is plumber, Louisville, KY, let's say. On your website, when you're working on your website, every page on your site should have a title. If it don't, one will automatically populate, but then you have no control. So every page should have a title, and you should not just stuff keywords in there, right? Because it's visible. But your keyword should be in it. It absolutely should. And again, you should think about user experience, not just trying to stuff keywords in there in SEO writing. And so an example of that is this, okay? I would argue that this is a really long title. I would never do one more than this. But this is a recipe. You can see I took the screenshot apparently 3 years ago. After 3 years, this was actually my #1 recipe last year. I made, like a salary equivalent just off this post because of Google. But people look up strawberry freezer jam around the time that strawberries become popular. So what is my key term here, or what is my keyword here? Certainly strawberry freezer jam. I chose to say with SureGel, trying to get the traffic of those that were doing it with SureGel. Again, you can think about this in relation to your own business, right? Estate planning lawyer, Louisville, Kentucky. It's the same thing, different model. The page title is what you click in Google, okay? It's what you click. And my keyword by George is right there. And that's on purpose, okay? Because that is one of the things that goes into your ranking. On your page on the back end, your pages, no matter who you have your website through, likely has a meta description. You don't need to know the rigmarole of what that is. Yes, it's an HTML element. That means it's not, of course, going to show when you're on the site, but it will show in search. But it shows in what's called your search engine result page. I'll show you what that means. You may not know that terminology, but you know what that is because we all use Google. Your meta description should describe what every page on your website is. And guess what? It should have your search term. Let's look at my friends, Kentucky Tourism. This is not a good meta description. I love my friends in tourism. I'm not trying to bully them, but this is not good. It's definitely been pulled from the website because look right here. You see those ... dots? This is the home page, which means at the time that I took this screenshot, at least, it's been several years, as you can see, they did not use a meta description. However, there are still keywords. The buzz of the bourbon capital of the world, iconic Kentucky experiences abound in this diverse region, caves, lakes, and corvettes. If you don't work in the tourism world, you probably don't know that caves, lakes, and corvettes is one of the names of the regions, right? One of the many. And so the fact that that's showing for the whole state is probably not the best meta description. But the meta description is what you actually read right here. Some of you may read that, some of you don't. I certainly do, right? But it also helps you know a little bit more about what this page is. Again, that keyword, whoops, let's see. I'm going to stop my video. I saw my video was a little laggy, and hopefully my voice will be fine, but I'll keep talking and then we'll go back to video when we're in the room for Q&A. But that meta description down here, that keyword better be in there too, right? It's another way to use it. Now, this is a typo. I just caught it right before we started. This slide should say headings, but let's roll with it. It still says meta. I apologize. But if you've ever been on a web page that has, a bunch of text, depending on what you need, that text usually has headings. Headings are very important for user experience, right? It cuts up the wording, it makes it not so long, etc. But there's a strategy to that too. Your headings should have your keyword in it, especially your top one. You don't have to know what an H1, H2 is. If you use WordPress, you maybe have seen that, or some other makers. Every heading doesn't have to have your keyword in it, but there's a time and place for it. If you're catching my drift, the keyword is everything, and I'll explain why in a couple slides, but it falls over here. So this is a recipe for me that does pretty well in the fall. It's a crazy simple recipe, right? 3 ingredients, and it's called pumpkin fluff. Well, I could have labeled this heading directions. I'm not going to rank for directions, right? I'm telling you how to make 3 ingredient pumpkin fluff. That's my key term. So as you can see, my keyword is now included in my heading. Okay, very important. That's just an example of maybe thinking about how you word things. Slugs, if you've never heard that word, a slug is a URL, okay? We've all copy and pasted URLs that look crazy. You may have clicked a Zoom link to get here that look crazy, right? Zoom links are the worst. But when you are on your website, you have the ability to edit the structure of your URL. And actually, if I could turn back time, I would take back this /recipes / and I would just have the name of the title, name of the recipe, because now I only do recipes. So that's a little redundant. But sometimes websites will have dates in their URL. That's not a good thing. They have /this, /that, ///. That's not a good thing. They need to be simple. But guess what? Your URL should have your keyword in it. Look at this, jcpedes.com recipes /cinnamon squirrel banana bread. Guess what? That post is about cinnamon swirl banana bread. And that is my key term. Okay. Tali, I see your comment. It's not currently being recorded. I might record this in future purposes. I think that might be a great on-demand webinar, but this is not being recorded, and I'd say, oh, it is blinking. Dave, is this being recorded? You can let me know.
Yeah,
if it is,
it
great.
sure is. And
Even better.
We will send you slides and recording probably tomorrow, the next day. But yeah,
Even better. Thank you.
That.
So now when you listen to the recording, you can remember that I didn't know I was being recorded. But I think that's fabulous, and love that you can watch the replay. So thank you for asking that question, Michelle. I appreciate that. But as you can see here, the keyword is right here in the URL. That is strategic, okay? Another place that keyword shows up. Text optimization, again, you don't want to put your text or your keyword every other word, and that's going to make sense right here. But it should be spread throughout your text. So this is a little screenshot of text from my site, a recipe I did called BLT macaroni salad. I am trying to get people to the page when they're Googling for that recipe. Hey, y'all, BLT macaroni salad, it's the ultimate comfort food, yada, yada, yada. As you can see here, I only said BLT macaroni salad once in this paragraph, but it's my keyword and I needed it there. I'm not saying it has to be in every paragraph. But what I mean by don't say it all the time, imagine had I said this: hey, y'all, you ready for my BLT macaroni salad? BLT macaroni salad is the ultimate comfort food. BLT macaroni salad combines the best of both worlds: creamy pasta salad and a classic BLT sandwich. The crispy bacon, fresh lettuce, and juicy tomatoes add a great crunch and flavor to my satisfying BLT macaroni salad. You see the point? That doesn't sound good for the user. And so one of my rules with how I use keyword density is I try to ask myself, if I were the consumer on the website, would I think, hey, this guy's saying Louisville plumber every other word, right? It reads funny. Put yourself in the shoes of the consumer. That's one of the best marketing tips I can ever give you. And you'll have quite a few answers at your fingertips by just doing that. Okay. So again, the keyword shows up there. What the point that I'm trying to make is this: when you have a website, Google does not look at the design when they're ranking you. They read your website as one big sheet of code. Okay. Your pages are code, your overall website is code. And so by using your keyword multiple times, Google is trying to serve their customers. And how Google serves their customer is by providing search results that matter. And so if I'm saying, okay, I'm a Louisville, Kentucky plumber, or plumber Louisville, whatever the search term is, and if I've said it in my page title, if I've said it in the text on my website, I've maybe said it in a heading, it's in my meta description, Google is going to read that and say, you know what, the site is about a Louisville plumber, and I feel pretty confident in referring it to as such, right? I know when you look up how to cook canned collard greens, I'm going to be near the top of that search because Google feels like they can trust, after the writing of my posts, that the post is in fact about the search term. That's why we use our keyword over and over. And so if you only use your keyword once, well, and that's on your website about being a Louisville plumber, I may have used the word urban. If I use Louisville plumber once and urban once, how does Google know if I'm trying to rank for the word urban or Louisville plumber? Those are two very different things, right? And someone Googling the word urban isn't going to take them to a plumber's page in Louisville. So the repetition is necessary. Okay. Now, where a lot of people get thrown off, and I think this is actually the best tip in this whole thing, what most people don't know. Some people know what I just told you. What you're looking at here is a cranberry chicken salad. We're all going to want supper after dealing with the training for me. We're talking about food the whole time, right? You hungry yet? But all of that to say, your website should, and I'm sure does, have images on it. Images can be suboptimal, and that surprises a lot of people. First off, there is an optimal size for your image. This is in pixels. Google likes images that are of 1200 aspect ratio. So it's an 800 by 1200 pixels, 1200 by 800 pixels, or if it's a square, 1200 by 1200. So if you don't have many photos on your site, I would not worry about that. It is best practice, but that's not something I would just focus on, because most sites for businesses don't have that many images. My website, for example, has 12,000 photos uploaded to it. If my images were too big, my site's going to be slow, which hurts my technical SEO. So it matters to someone like me, but for you, maybe not, right? But here's what matters for us all. The way you title your image matters. A couple slides ago, we saw the text for this. This is BLT macaroni salad, right? I'd like to dive right in right now. I'm hungry. That's the image. Yes, I could just upload that onto my site and think, bim, bam, boom, I'm done. You're not done. Okay. We know that when you have images on your computer that you then upload to your website, and this is one of the bad parts about doing things from mobile, is that you're going to make this error, is that images have titles, right? There is a correct way to title an image for the search engine. And you may be sitting there thinking, I have all these images on my site that don't do this. Crap. Been there, done that. I wish I would have learned this years before I did. And this was a very costly mistake. It was overwhelming how much I had. So I paid an SEO firm to come in and help me many, many years ago. And I paid over $20,000. I'm just going to be forthright with you. At that point, I was a college student running this website. That was a big expense for me. But I learned immensely from it, and I've used those skills every day since. I'm also using them to tell you all today so you don't make the same expensive mistake that I made, right? But I didn't know that you title your images in a certain way. The correct titling for that image, BLT hyphen macaroni hyphen salad. That's my search term. Guess what? The keyword is in the image title. That's important. We've all saved images to our computer that says IMG 876 or, a bunch of crazy text.jpg. Google has the ability, though this is not what they do, they could probably call this pasta in a bowl, realistically speaking. But think how many images are on the internet, right? They're not going to do that. When Google looks at this image, if it's called IMG 876, this image is ranking by the words IMG 876. No one is going to try to find this recipe by Googling IMG 876. See what I'm saying? But they will be able to recommend it if they Google BLT macaroni salad. Okay. Now you may be looking at this next one. That looks like the same thing. It's not. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. In image titling, for whatever reason, right? Well, I know the reason. It's code, and the hyphen here in terms of code means space. We use hyphens, okay? So that's why the top one is correct and the bottom one, the one below it, is not as good. I don't want to say it's just abundantly horrible, but it's not as good, okay? Here's an example. So you all, again, we're talking food. Again, it's my business. I'm sorry. Um, I am a huge Barefoot Contessa fan. I don't know if you all like Ina, huge fan. And I did a series many years ago where I would try celebrity recipes and I would rank them, and it was very fun. But I have a post on my website for Ina Garten's Caesar dressing recipe, and I talk about whether it's good. Plot twist, it's amazing. And I have at times ranked #1 for this. But as of last week, when I Google that, right, and I press images, because it's not just food. Sometimes we search for things in image. Images get a lot of search traffic. If you look right here, I'm not ranking #1. The Today Show is currently outranking me. And, I hate that. But I'm here to tell you, the todayshow.com is a much bigger website than jcpeats.com. They get a lot more than 60,000 views a day, I can tell you that. But look at the next 3 images. It's me. I'm ranking. And, out of my bias, right, I think those are the best images on the screen. And so I would maybe be tempted to click those, but they're here at the top. #5 is the Food Network, right? The Food Network is much bigger than my website, but I'm outranking them. And actually, if you can look right here, this next image is me too. And actually here on the bottom, these are the old images. I used to not be, my photography not used to be as good. This is a pin, and this image right here from Pinterest, these are actually mine too, with the shrimp and the fork. What does this mean though? The Food Network and the Today Show are bigger than me, but here's the Today Show image I'm ranking above. Just by being able to use SEO, I can beat the big dog, right? And you can too. How did I rank here for this? 1, the images are titled correctly, I can promise you. But just like I showed you that graphic, now it goes even further. My keyword, Ina Garten Caesar dressing, Louisville plumber, whatever you may do, The keyword's going to be in my page title. It's going to be in my text. It's going to be in my meta description. It's going to be in my headings if I have them. Now it's even in my image. And so now when Google sees that search term over and over, plus the images have it, they're going to say, you know what? This post is really about that. This website is truly a Louisville plumber. I'm going to recommend it. Tyler, you say here you're surprised. It is surprising, I think, but it's incredibly important. Now, when you upload images to your website, I've got a piece of bad news for you. If you've already uploaded images to your site, you think, well, I could retitle it in the library. It is already uploaded to the root domain, and that doesn't change it on the site. I hate that, but it is what it is. My recommendation is to re-upload it when you have it correctly. Retitle it on your computer before you upload it to the site. Okay. Now, depending on if you have, WordPress or whatever you use, Squarespace, your image library is probably going to have a couple things. And here's another example. So now we're looking at cheesy corn dip, right? The hunger continues. But all of that to say, I told you about the title. There are other fields. You do not have to put a caption. I never put a caption because they actually show up. I don't like that. But alt text, also called alternative text, is a good thing to fill out. So we know that the average internet user does not use a screen reader. However, some people do use a screen reader. And accessibility is very important to me as a person, but accessibility is very important to Google and to search engines. They want sites to be accessible and they reward those that are. And so by providing alt text, if someone uses a screen reader, they should be able to hear the description of the text and know what the image is, right? And so let me give you an example. This is one of my top recipes every year, tomato pie, right? Yes, Google could maybe recognize that this was pie. But would they know it's a tomato pie with pimento cheese topping? Of course not. I need to tell them that. And so what's the right alternative text here? Again, you don't want to keyword stuff here. Just say what it is. Southern tomato pie with fresh basil. That's exactly what that image is. The keyword is still in there. See what I'm saying? Tomato pie is the keyword. But I'm also telling you what the image is. When you close your eyes, you could read that and you won't get the exact image, but you're going to get there. What you don't want is pie. Well, what kind of pie is it? That's very different than a chocolate pie, right? Or you could say Southern, South, tomato pie, quiche, brunch, recipe, lunch, dinner, right? I'm trying to rank for a lot of words right there. That doesn't sound good when it is read. And they not only do they not reward that, they penalize that. I've ever been on a website where maybe you're having bad internet or whatever happens and an image doesn't load, and you've ever seen a text block in the place of it, like a little block, and you see text in the top left corner. The text that actually shows there is the alt text. So that's another use of alt text. Now I'm going to call myself out here, which is why I use this. We've talked about pumpkin fluff already today. This is not a very good one. I've titled it 3-ingredient-pumpkin-fluff 7. That's right. By the way, only an image can only have a title one time on your computer. And so if you have multiple images that are being uploaded for your business onto your website and you're using the same title and or keyword, that's not a bad thing. I can promise you that's how, for example, I got 4 images onto line 1 of this search term. They all have the same title. But how you do that properly is you do -1, -2, -3 to say image number 1, image number 2. Again, I have no caption here, but I do have an alt text and description. I always fill those out. Your site may not have a description, but I'm going to bet it has an alt text. 3-ingredient pumpkin fluff. This was very cheap of me and not very good. It has my search term in it, yes. But 3-ingredient pumpkin fluff, I should probably say something like 3-ingredient pumpkin fluff in a crystal bowl for this photo. This alt text is not bad, but it's not perfect. Okay, I could definitely be more descriptive or accessible here, but it shouldn't be that long either, right? Because the screen reader is going to read it. And again, someone on your site maybe has never used even a screen reader, but they do reward those that prioritize. So a couple just basic website tips while I have you here. Site speed matters, right? If your website has just a ton of photos, you do need to think about the size of them. We have fast internet these days. I grew up in rural Kentucky in an era of not fast internet. I can promise you, when I started my blog 15 years ago, it used to take me forever to upload a single image. I'm proud of myself for sticking it out, right? I ran this website with crappy internet. But site speed matters to the search engine. This is an old newspaper term, and I'm not trying to go too old school on you all. I'm just 30, but um, websites follow this rule too. Leveraging the fold, it matters. What's important on your website should be at the top, right? Good headlines, call to actions, media, photos. You can't trust that people are going to keep scrolling. Here's the thing. If you've ever taken a marketing class with me before, I tend to say this. My number one marketing philosophy is that people are lazy. And while that doesn't sound very nice, it is true. And so, what we need the consumer to see, what we want them to do, we need to make it easy and it needs to be at the top. And that's what I mean by that. You should keep websites simple. You're not writing the next great American novel, right? Simple websites work because they're usable. You need to, if you build a website on web, you always need to look like you need to check what it looks like on mobile. Sites must be mobile friendly because the average person searches the internet now on mobile. And sometimes how it looks on desktop is not how it looks on mobile. And you need to look at that. That's very important. You need to stay true to your branding. That's pretty obvious, but it's crazy how much a website can be cheapened with inconsistent branding. A general rule is that we want people to click on the website. Absolutely. We want a good click through rate, right? We want people to click, click, click their heart's desire. But stats show that people scroll before they click, right? It's going to be annoying if I have to click 10 times to get to what I want. So think about user experience. That's important. And scrolling does help there. Okay. White space is not a bad thing. It helps people see what they need to do. It helps with visual cues. White is not a design no-no. Good images matter, right? Use good images, not stock if you can help it, because it's going to be hard to rank for stock imagery. But if you have a photo about like meet the team and you're an attorney, it should say JC hyphen Phelps hyphen, estate planning attorney with hyphens. If I were a estate planning attorney, that's going to help me rank. You should absolutely, of course, link out to your social. The top bar on your website, do not put too much there. That's one of my website pet peeves. That should be there for the user. It should not be daunting to use. But a couple SEO best practices for you, taking it back to SEO. You may be sitting here thinking, crap, I have so many things that I need to update. Story of my life, I do too. I still do. I update things all the time, and it seems like I'm never done. This is something you need to do on an as-need basis because SEO is a long-term game. If you go home and you change all of this tonight, you're not going to see a change tomorrow. Google does not crawl your site every single day. And yes, you can force a recrawl, but I don't even want to get into that because, that should be used very sparingly. Google is going to crawl or read, right? Crawling is the word, the New York Times multiple times a day. That's why their most recent news is going to pop up on page one. But your website and my website is far from that. So it's a long-term game. You do not see immediate benefit from this, but boy, oh boy, do you see benefit from it. The number one thing you can focus on is using keywords throughout the site and ask yourself for the keyword. What would my customer Google to get to me? If you were a customer Googling what you're Googling and you went to your website, would you be pleased, right? Would you be happy to have found that website? That's the keywords you should focus on. You should focus on incorporating them in text, optimizing your images with the correct titles, prioritizing that user experience. Don't say that keyword every other word. You're going to stuff it. I've already said that. Place yourself in the shoes of your consumer. Read the website, read what you've said. How does it sound? But here's what you got to do. You got to promise me you're not going to overwhelm yourself. Because updating this stuff, maybe you and I have very different opinions, but I think this is invariably boring to just make hours of website edits. That does not excite me. And quite frankly, I'm not going to do it, even as someone that works in publishing. It's what I do. If you say, I need to update all my images, maybe you're the type of person that can just knock it out in a day. That's fabulous. The average person's not that way. You need to set a goal where you're going to update this many pages a day or this many images. And now that you know, going forward, you won't make the mistake, but you do need to edit the things that are on the site. Just because something is uploaded does not mean it should not be edited, right? Old content ranks, but don't overwhelm yourself when you do it. Looking back before we finish here, I do want to tell you that, of course, the SBDC is here to work with you. No matter your business need, if finance, so many things that we do. It would be an honor to work with you. Again, we are statewide. This is our number. If you want to take a screenshot, I'll put it here in the chat, 1-888-414-7232. 1-888-414-7232. Okay. We would love to work with you. We can get you set up. But before I go back and we can look at each other for a Q&A, I want to scroll back. Please excuse my crazy scrolling. But I want to go back to this image of my site, right, on one day. Let's talk about it. Why would you go back to update old posts? Ina Garten's red wine braised short ribs. Okay. I can tell you that post made me about probably $100 this day. Right. That's not all profit. I can promise you that. But it got 3.3 thousand views. Okay. That post is probably 4 or 5 years old, but it's still making me money. Perfectly cooked canned collard greens is probably 3 years old. Crab casserole bake, well, always one of my best. It is years old. Ina Garden Caesar dressing, there you can see, years old. Okay. And so had I thought, well, I've uploaded it, I'm not going to change it, I'm not going to be ranking for those things. These are pages that I've had to update myself. And while, yes, I don't sell a product, I make money from making views. In your case, whether you're selling a product or a service, views will have a positive correlation to sales because you can't make a sale without a view. No one's going to know what's on the website if no one's there, right? So is it one for one? Of course not. But no matter your business model, there's a correlation there. That I can promise you. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm also going to turn my video back on. I was getting a little laggy. I hope that didn't affect the quality. Let me remove the pin, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get back here in the room. I have some questions, but I would love to answer any
Mm-hmm.
said specific examples. I got you, girl. Anytime.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do we have here, Dave?
Right.
Tally's.
Yep.
Would you recommend blog posts to follow exactly the same suggestions as recipe pages? Ish, yeah. And I'm not saying your business page has to have a blog. Of course it doesn't. These rules are true for home pages. Your home pages should have images and keywords. The services tab should have, those keywords on them. But the recipe pages, for me, that is my business offering, the structure is roughly the same. Your post is probably not going to be as long as mine. You're not going to have as many images as mine, but every page should have an image that's optimized. Yes. Every page should have a structure, and a consistent structure is not a bad thing. And that structure should incorporate that keyword. And so while it may not be one for one, the recipe blog, the structure and the skill set behind it is applicable to all. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, that's a good question.
How often, great question. How often should new content be updated? Gigi, I love that question. You're speaking to my heart. How often should it be updated? So here's the thing. You all are not going to like what I'm about to tell you, and I shouldn't even tell you this. So, Dave, I apologize. Google makes updates to their algorithm on average 7 times a day. I hate that. The things that I told you are steadfast and true. Those have been true for years, and they're going to continue to be true. There are little tweaks that happen. And if you drive yourself crazy with reading about Google core updates and all this stuff, you'll be updating constantly. You can't let yourself do that. If you feel that content is really well optimized, you don't need to touch it. There are posts I haven't touched for years. Okay. But here's my number one tip. How do you know when you should update the content? One, if it's not optimized now, update it. However, you need to watch your traffic. And so, for example, if you're a Louisville, Kentucky plumber and you've noticed that you used to rank number 2 or 3, but you have fallen to 7 or 8, it's time for an update. That's Google telling you that they're prioritizing someone else. And so look at how you rank. When I have a recipe that falls, new photos, new text, I'm updating it because I want to be back at number 1. And so same for you. That's my best advice. Watch how you rank. Yep. Let's see, Dave, what we got here.
There's a good one from Michelle.
Joe, does it help to send the keywords via a tracker? Help Google help to send the via a tracker to help Google find them sooner. So you may have to clarify that a little bit, Michelle. So in terms of tracker, or you may be talking about the research, you don't need to tell Google to like find the keywords on your site or to scan your site, because they do crawls of your site from time to time. Again, if you've done massive updates, it might be worth having Google do like a massive recrawl of the site one time, but they will eventually do it. Again, it's not on the daily basis. So does it help to tell them to track your keyword changes? No, because if you do it too much, it'll be an issue. However, I might be misunderstanding the question, and you may be meaning tracker in another way. So please let me know, and I'll change my answer if that's the case.
Yeah.
Gigi, you're killing me with the good questions. Will this work to drive people to my YouTube page? Oh yeah, absolutely. YouTube pops up. Think about Google search, right? When you Google things, YouTube videos tend to be pretty high up.
Mhm.
Why? Google owns YouTube. Yeah, that's a good tip, number 1 there. But number 2, how does it work? Your YouTube titles should have keywords in it, right? And they should be optimized. That should be in the description of your videos and in the back end things that you upload. That alongside having, good thumbnails and things like that absolutely drive people to the YouTube. But YouTube is nothing more than a search engine. It's just a visual one.
Yeah.
I put the keywords in a keyword tracker. Yeah. So if you're looking at the keywords, it does help to, I think I see what you're saying. Like if you're thinking your keyword you want to rank for, does putting that into a tracker make Google find them sooner? Not necessarily, no. The keyword tracker that you are looking at, thank you for clarifying. I appreciate that. I want to make sure I give you the answer you need. That's more so to see where the current Google traffic stands, but they do not monitor, say, an AdWords tracker and then take that as a recommendation, because how it tracks is based off of overall aggregate data. But I like it. And boy, if that works, I'd be on there. JCP, I'd be doing me all the time, right? This is the website if you want to look at the recipes. But yeah, great questions. Any other questions? Dave, they're rocking it
I
tonight.
know.
Topic like pumps me up. Maybe it's
Yeah.
on. There are things that I can teach the phone book if I needed, but you know, I truly love this topic. If I can unmute it, it would make it easier as to what I mean. Yeah, I know that's the bad part of the text, but we got there.
Yeah, we got some rules around here.
Where should I go for me info? Are you may have to for more info,
More information.
about working with the SBDC, more info about SEO. What
Gigi knows us well, so
Okay, about SEO. Let me let me pull up a site for you. There are so many great websites, but I will tell you, this is just JC talking here. I have no idea um, who this person is. This is not an endorsement. It's a free website that I myself have learned off of. There are a lot of great resources, but some are truly confusing. I really like this guy. His name is Neil Patel. He is extremely talented, and I think his posts are written very strategically, very easy to read. But he is quite the SEO superstar. And so, if you're just wanting, you can't sleep at night, and your version of doom scrolling instead of TikToking is reading about SEO, get to scrolling on Neil Patel. You'll learn a few things. I certainly have.
Yeah. You can learn anything on YouTube. That's
Oh,
the best.
I mean, and I have truly learned a lot about SEO on YouTube too.
Yeah.
And actually I first learned about it on YouTube, in full honesty, and then I thought, crap, I have this website with years of content, and yeah, it's getting okay traffic, but I think I could be doing more.
Mhm.
And then it was overwhelming for me because I had years of content, and content like I do is long. So I hired a firm to come in and teach me some of the things that I talked about, and they made all these edits for me. But as I said, that was extremely expensive. And by the way, that was like 2013, 2014. I'm sure the price has gone up. Uh, but, as a college student running this website, I was grateful to have a business. But that was a significant cash outlay for me.
Yeah.
Uh, it's paid dividends, but I in fact first learned about it from YouTube myself. Um, and so there is a lot of great info out there. My advice when going through it, you'll notice trends between content. SEO um, recommendations are only as good as they can be understood, and you can get really technical, and it becomes even overwhelming for a technical person to understand. And so, if it's not written in a tone that's going to click with you, it's dead weight loss. Don't use the time. Use your
Mm.
time better elsewhere and someone that you're going to follow. Because there are people that lose me, and to be quite frank, and that will continue to be true. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, JC, we're at the top of the hour. We don't really have it in the questions. So, JC, thank you so much. This was a ton of information, and I know everybody very thankful for you sharing today. So that's why we call you our national treasure.
It was a party. Anytime, yeah. Anytime I can nerd out with Dave, I'm going to do it. Party, yes.
Yeah.
It's an SEO party. That's my kind of party.
Well, friends, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week at noon at our next Toolkit Tuesday. And I think you're coming back in a couple of weeks, I think, to do a little bit more stuff for us, I think, right?
Like a cold check, I just keep on coming.
There you go.
I'll be back in a few weeks with y'all.
Yeah.
Profitability, I think, is our next one.
Yes, that's right.
How to enhance profitability.
There you
Yep.
go.
So stay tuned to the marketing. I would love to
Yep.
see.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening, and we'll see you guys next week. Thank you, JC.
Thanks, Dave, for having me. See y'all.